The warning alarms should have been Marcus Chen's first clue that something was wrong. His small cargo hauler, the Steady Prophet, limped into Nexus Prime's docking approach, with half its systems flickering between operational and completely dead. The nav computer had corrupted itself 3 jumps back, leaving Marcus to plot courses manually using nothing but star charts and hope. He was exhausted, running on his 4th cup of recycled coffee, and desperately needed a place to land for repairs. Nexus Prime Control. "This is Freighter Steady Prophet requesting docking assignment," Marcus said into his headset, stifling a yawn. The response came back, garbled, cut through with static. Marcus caught only fragments. Negative. Eastern Bay. Do not. Control. You're breaking up. Please repeat docking assignment. More static. Then a single clear phrase. Bay 7 East is available. Marcus punched the coordinates into his manual navigation system. Bay 7 East. Simple enough. He guided his ship through the massive station's outer ring, marveling as always at the sheer diversity of vessels docked here. Nexus Prime served as a trading hub for hundreds of species, and the docking bays reflected that beautiful chaos. Except for the eastern section. As Marcus approached, he noticed something odd. The entire eastern docking area was empty. Not just his assigned bay, but all of them. Massive berths designed to accommodate ships 10 times the size of his small hauler sat vacant. The running lights were dimmed, no loading crews moved about. No automated cargo systems hummed with activity. Marcus muttered. Guess business is slow on this side. He brought the Steady Prophet in smoothly, despite his fatigue. 20 years of hauling freight had made docking second nature. His ship settled onto the platform with barely a tremor. Marcus went through his shutdown checklist, already planning his repair priorities. New nav computer first, then the comm system. Then maybe a decent meal that didn't come from a ration pack. He unsealed the airlock and stepped out onto the docking platform. The silence hit him immediately. Every docking bay Marcus had ever visited buzzed with noise, equipment moving, people shouting, ships arriving and departing. This bay was silent as a tomb. "Hello?" Marcus called out. His voice echoed off the metal walls. No response. He walked toward what should have been the station entrance, his boots clanging on the deck plating. That's when he noticed the viewing windows above, dozens of faces pressed against the glass, all staring down at him. The moment Marcus looked up, people scattered backward as if burned. What in the world? Marcus stopped walking. A massive ship occupied the berth next to his. Marcus hadn't noticed it during his approach because his attention had been focused on landing. Now he saw it properly, and his breath caught. The vessel was enormous, easily 50 times the size of the Steady Prophet. Its hull was a deep crimson color that seemed to shimmer in the bay's lights. Intricate golden designs covered every surface, patterns that looked almost like scales. The ship's engines still glowed with residual heat, indicating a recent arrival, and it was beautiful. Marcus had seen plenty of alien vessels in his career, but this one was art. Whoever built it had cared about more than just function. Every line, every curve spoke of pride and craftsmanship. His admiration was interrupted by a sound that made his blood run cold. A deep, rumbling growl echoed through the bay. The deck beneath Marcus's feet vibrated with it. The massive ship's cargo ramp began to lower. Smoke billowed out, thick and gray. Through the haze, Marcus saw movement. Large movement. As the smoke cleared, he found himself staring at creatures from humanity's oldest myths. Dragons. They weren't exactly like the dragons from Earth's stories, but close enough that Marcus's brain supplied the word immediately. Massive reptilian beings, easily 4 times his height, covered in scales that ranged from deep crimson to burnished gold, wings folded against their backs. Smoke drifted from their nostrils, their eyes glowed like heated metal. The largest one descended the ramp first. Ancient was the only word that fit her. Her scales were a deep, weathered red, marked with scars that spoke of long life and hard experience. She moved with the careful dignity of age and absolute authority. Behind her came others, varying in size. 2 large adults flanked her protectively. 3 smaller ones, though still massive by human standards, followed behind. The youngest, barely the size of a shuttle, peeked around the others with wide, golden eyes. Marcus's survival instincts screamed at him to run, to get back in his ship and launch immediately. Damaged systems or not. His hands trembled. His heart hammered against his ribs, but he didn't run, partly because he'd spent 20 years in space learning that panic got you killed. Partly because his ship genuinely couldn't fly far enough to matter, but mostly because he'd made a mistake, and Marcus Chen had been raised to face his mistakes directly. Besides, where would running get him? If these beings meant him harm, his tiny ship wouldn't save him. And the viewing windows above told him that whatever was happening here, everyone was watching, everyone was terrified. The ancient dragon stopped 10 meters away, her eyes, the color of molten gold, fixed on Marcus with an intensity that made him feel transparent. Smoke curled from her nostrils in steady streams. Marcus took a deep breath. Then he did something that felt simultaneously stupid and necessary. He bowed. Not a casual nod, but a proper bow. Respectful. Acknowledging. The kind of bow you gave to someone who deserved recognition. "I apologize," Marcus said clearly, in universal standard. His accent was terrible and his grammar uncertain, but he pushed forward. "My navigation system failed. I did not mean to intrude on your space. This was my mistake." The dragon's eyes widened slightly. Behind her, the others shifted with surprise. In the viewing windows above, Marcus could see security personnel frantically gesturing. Warning lights began to flash across the station. Someone, somewhere, was panicking, but Marcus kept his eyes on the ancient dragon before him. She took another step forward. The deck trembled under her weight. Marcus held his ground, heart racing, and waited to see if his honesty would matter. Grandmother Sithara had lived for 347 cycles. In all that time, she had never encountered a being quite like this small human. Most creatures fled at the mere sight of her family. Those who didn't flee either attacked out of fear or prostrated themselves in pathetic displays of submission. Some tried to appease her with gifts and trembling voices, treating her family like dangerous animals that needed to be managed. This human did none of those things. He stood straight after his bow, maintaining eye contact. His heart raced. She could smell the chemical signature of his fear, but his voice remained steady. He had apologized not for existing, but for a specific mistake. He had acknowledged her right to this space. It was refreshing and deeply confusing. "You did not know this bay was reserved?" Sithara asked, her voice a deep rumble that resonated through the deck plating. Marcus shook his head. "No, ma'am. My communication system is damaged. I only received fragments of the docking controller's message. I heard Bay 7 East is available and thought that was my assignment." "Ma'am," Sithara repeated the word, tasting its meaning through her translator implant. A term of respect. How strange. Behind her, Sithara's son Corvin growled low in his throat. "The human lies. They always know of our presence. This is provocation." Marcus's attention shifted to Corvin. But instead of cowering, he met the younger dragon's gaze. "I understand why you'd think that, sir, but I've been in space for 3 weeks straight, jumping between mining colonies. My ship is falling apart. I haven't slept properly in days, and until about 2 minutes ago, I didn't even know your species existed." He paused. "Though I wish our first meeting had been under better circumstances." Sithara felt a flicker of amusement. The human was either incredibly brave or incredibly foolish. Possibly both. The youngest of her grandchildren, Kira, peeked around Sithara's foreleg with undisguised curiosity. The child had never been this close to another being who didn't immediately run away. Her golden eyes were wide with wonder. "Kira, stay back," warned her mother, Sithara's daughter Theris. But Kira had already spotted something interesting. The human wasn't looking at Sithara anymore. He was looking at Kira, and there was no fear in his eyes. Just warmth? Marcus smiled, not a nervous grimace, but a genuine smile. "Hello there," he said softly to Kira. "That's a beautiful color you've got. Your scales look like sunshine." Kira made a small chirping sound of pleasure. No one had ever complimented her scales before. Sithara felt the shift in the air. This was no longer just about a docking violation. This human was treating her grandchild like a person. Not a monster. Not a threat. Just a young one worthy of kindness. You have younglings of your own? Sithara asked. A niece back on Earth, Marcus replied, reaching slowly into his jacket pocket. Several of the adult dragons tensed, but he moved carefully, withdrawing a small rectangular object. This is her. Maya. She's 7 years old. He held up a photograph. Sithara leaned forward, examining the image with one eye. A small human child with dark hair grinned at the camera, missing 2 front teeth. She recently lost these teeth, Marcus explained, pointing. Kept them under her pillow, because she said the tooth fairy pays better for dragon teeth. I tried to explain that she doesn't have dragon teeth, but she insisted they'd become dragon teeth if she believed hard enough. Despite herself, Sithara felt warmth spreading through her chest. The simple, absurd logic of children. It was universal. Your niece sounds determined, Sithara said. She's stubborn as a asteroid, Marcus agreed fondly. Gets it from her mother. My sister could argue with a star and win. Above them, the station's announcement system crackled to life. Attention, valued Dracori guests. The station master wishes to extend his deepest apologies for this unfortunate incident. We are prepared to offer substantial compensation for this disruption and will remove the trespassing vessel immediately. Please accept our assurances that— Turn that off, Sithara roared, her voice echoing through the entire bay. The announcement cut off mid-sentence. Corvin stepped forward, smoke pouring from his nostrils. You see, Mother? They treat us like wild beasts to be pacified with offerings. They don't even ask if we want their compensation. They just assume we need to be managed. Marcus was frowning now, looking up at the speakers. Wait, they're calling me a trespasser? I received docking permission. And they're offering you compensation? For what? I'm the one who made the mistake. He pulled out a small communication device, fiddling with its damaged controls. After a moment, he got it working and spoke clearly into it. Station control, this is Marcus Chen. I need to make something clear. The Dracori family has every right to be upset with me for entering their reserved space. But they didn't ask for compensation. They didn't demand anything. They're just standing here talking to me like reasonable people. So maybe instead of throwing credits at them and treating them like a problem to manage, you could try treating them with basic respect? Silence followed his words. Then chaos erupted on the communication channels. Multiple voices talking over each other. Someone demanding to know if Marcus was being coerced. Someone else insisting they were trying to help. Marcus turned off his communicator with a disgusted expression. Unbelievable. Sithara stared at this strange human. He had just defended her family to the station authorities. He had challenged the very system that kept her family isolated and feared. And he had done it not because she'd asked, but because it was right. Why did you do that? Sithara asked quietly. Marcus looked up at her, confusion evident on his face. Do what? Defend us. You could have accepted their offer to remove you. You would have been safe. Marcus shrugged. Because they were being disrespectful. Your people, not problems. And honestly, in the last 5 minutes, you've treated me with more courtesy than most station controllers do. You could have just torched my ship for the intrusion, but instead you're standing here having a conversation. He paused, then added, also, anyone who has kids can't be all bad. Parents are the same everywhere. Protective. Proud. Worried. That's universal. Kira chirped again and edged closer to Marcus. Sithara made a decision that would have shocked every being watching from the viewing windows above. Human Marcus Chen, she said formally. Would you honor my family with your presence aboard our vessel? We were about to share our evening meal, and it seems we have much to discuss. Corvan's jaw dropped open in shock. Theris made a strangled sound. The other family members stared at Sithara as if she'd lost her mind. Marcus blinked in surprise. You're inviting me to dinner? Yes. Unless you have more pressing matters? Marcus looked at his damaged ship, then back at the dragon family, then up at the viewing windows where hundreds of faces watched in frozen disbelief. Then he smiled. You know what? Dinner sounds great. I haven't had a home-cooked meal in weeks. As Marcus followed the Dracori family up their boarding ramp, every being in Nexus Prime watched in stunned silence. The human who should have run was walking willingly into the dragon's den, and he looked almost happy about it. He had imagined something stark and military, all metal corridors and harsh lighting. Instead, he found himself in what could only be described as a home. Warm lighting cast a golden glow across walls decorated with intricate tapestries. Carved wooden furniture, sized for beings much larger than himself, filled the spaces, and everywhere, absolutely everywhere, were small personal touches that spoke of family life. Children's drawings hung on one wall, depicting stars and planets in bright colors. A collection of crystals sat arranged on a shelf, each one labeled with a name and location. Photographs, actual physical photographs like the one Marcus carried, showed the Dracori family at various ages and places. Your home is beautiful, Marcus said honestly. Theris, Kira's mother, seemed surprised by the comment. You expected something different? Maybe something more like a warship, Marcus admitted. But this feels like the family haulers I grew up around. My parents had pictures everywhere too. Drove my sister crazy because there was no empty wall space. Sithara led them to a large common area where cushions and heating stones were arranged in a circle. The room was clearly designed for family gatherings. At the center sat a low table with a meal already prepared. Please, sit, Sithara gestured to a cushion that had been hastily adjusted to human height. Marcus settled down, trying not to think about how small he was compared to everyone else. Kira immediately plopped down next to him, earning a warning look from her mother. It's all right, Marcus said. I don't mind the company. The meal was unlike anything Marcus had ever seen. Crystallized minerals that glowed faintly. Prepared meats that smelled spicy and rich. Fruits that shimmered with an iridescent sheen. Sithara explained each dish, noting which ones were safe for human consumption. We're not sure about your dietary needs, she said. But these should be harmless. Marcus tried a piece of the fruit. It tasted like cinnamon and starlight. This is incredible. As they ate, conversation flowed more easily than Marcus would have thought possible. Corvan remained suspicious, watching Marcus with narrow eyes. But the others began to relax. How long have you been traveling? Marcus asked between bites. Sithara's expression grew distant. Continuously? Nearly 40 cycles. We pause at stations for supplies and trade, but we have no permanent home. 40 years? Marcus set down his utensil. Why? 40 years? Because most places do not want us, Theris said quietly. They tolerate our presence for trade purposes, but they make it clear we are not welcome to stay. Kira, who had been drawing pictures on a digital tablet, spoke up in a small voice. The other children run away when they see me. They say I'm scary. Marcus looked at the young dragon, at her bright, curious eyes and the way she held her drawing stylus with careful precision. You're not scary. You're just different. And some people are afraid of different. Are you afraid? Kira asked. Marcus considered lying, then decided against it. A little bit. When I first saw your grandmother, my heart was beating so fast I thought it might explode. But being afraid and being scary are two different things. I was afraid because you're all so much bigger than me, and I didn't know what would happen. Not because you did anything wrong. Kira seemed to think about this. Then she showed Marcus her drawing. It depicted a small figure standing in front of much larger ones. That's you, she said, pointing to the small figure. You didn't run away. No, Marcus agreed. I didn't. Corvan finally spoke, his voice less hostile than before. Why not? Everyone else does. Even species that could defend themselves choose to flee rather than interact with us. Marcus leaned back on his cushion, considering the question. Honestly, running seemed pointless. My ship can barely make it to the next station. And besides, I made a mistake. I was raised to face my mistakes, not run from them. Even when facing them might mean death? Corvin pressed. Even then, Marcus said. Though I'm glad it didn't come to that. This fruit is too good to miss. Despite himself, Corvan's mouth twitched in what might have been amusement. Sithara watched this exchange with keen interest. Then she asked the question that had been forming since Marcus first defended them. Marcus Chen, in your travels, have you encountered cargo marked with Dracori symbols? Sure, Marcus nodded. I've hauled some Dracori goods before. Medical crystals mostly. Heading to colony worlds. Why? And the condition of those goods when delivered? Marcus frowned, remembering. Actually, now that you mention it, often not great. Containers damaged. Improper storage temperature. Rough handling. I always figured it was just standard shipping negligence. It is not negligence, Sithara said, her voice heavy. It is fear. Handlers are so terrified of our cargo that they rush through their work. They want to be done with anything connected to us as quickly as possible. Our trade goods arrive damaged. Our reputation suffers. The cycle continues. Marcus felt anger rising in his chest. That's not right. Cargo should be handled properly regardless of who it belongs to. That's basic professionalism. Should be, yes, Theris agreed. But fear overrides professionalism. Marcus pulled out his battered datapad and started making notes. What routes do you usually ship on, and what kind of goods? Corvin leaned forward. Why do you ask? Because I'm a freight hauler, Marcus said simply. It's what I do. And I'm thinking about the problem. Your cargo gets mishandled because people are scared. But what if you had a handler who wasn't scared? Someone who could inspect the goods properly, use the right storage protocols, and actually care about delivery quality? Sithara's eyes gleamed. Someone like you? Maybe, Marcus said carefully. My route takes me through several sectors. I'd need to see your shipping manifests and destination lists to know if there's overlap, but if there is, he shrugged. I need work. You need reliable shipping. Might be worth exploring. He looked up from his datapad to find the entire family staring at him. You would do business with us? Theris asked, disbelief clear in her voice. Voluntarily? Why not? Your credits spend the same as anyone else's. Don't they? Marcus grinned. Plus, if your medical crystals are as high quality as this fruit, they're probably worth handling correctly. Corvin made a sound that might have been a laugh. You are either the bravest human in the galaxy or the most foolish. Can't I be both? Marcus replied. Kira tugged on Marcus's sleeve. Does this mean you'll come back? To visit? 2-9. Marcus looked at the young dragon's hopeful expression and felt something shift in his chest. These weren't monsters. They were just a family trying to exist in a galaxy that feared them. Yeah, he said softly. Yeah, I'll come back. Sithara rose from her cushion, her ancient eyes bright with something that looked like hope. Marcus Chen, you have given my family something we have not experienced in many cycles. You have given us normalcy, a simple meal, a business conversation, the possibility of friendship. You gave me dinner and didn't eat me, Marcus pointed out. I'd call that a fair trade. The Dracori family laughed. A sound like distant thunder mixed with wind chimes. Above them, in the station, security alerts began flashing again. But this time, they weren't about danger. They were about something far more alarming to the established order. The human and the dragons were becoming friends, and nobody knew what to do about it. Marcus had been aboard the Dracori ship for nearly 3 hours when the first real trouble started. He was examining a holographic display of shipping routes with Corvan, discussing the logistics of transporting medical crystals, when Sithara's communication panel lit up with an urgent priority signal. Grandmother, one of her other grandchildren called out. It's the station master. He's demanding to speak with you immediately. Sithara's expression darkened, but she activated the communication link. A Vendorian appeared on the screen, his 4 eyes blinking rapidly with agitation. His skin had turned a pale blue, the color of extreme stress for his species. Honored Dracori guests, the station master began, his voice shaking. We have a situation. A group of concerned citizens has formed a rescue operation. They believe the human is being held against his will. Marcus nearly choked on the water he'd been drinking. What? That's ridiculous. They are armed, the station master continued, ignoring Marcus's outburst. They claim they're coming to liberate the human from captivity. I've tried to stop them, but they've overridden my authority. They'll reach the Eastern Bay in approximately 10 minutes. Corvan's growl shook the entire room. Armed? They dare bring weapons against us? This is exactly what always happens. Theris said bitterly, gathering Kira close. Fear leads to aggression. Aggression leads to conflict. And we're always blamed. Marcus stood up quickly. How many people are in this rescue team? 15, the station master replied. Led by a Carillion trader named Vex. He's been spreading word that you're in danger. That the Dracori have taken you hostage. Vex, Marcus repeated, recognition dawning. Short guy, purple scales, always complaining about shipping regulations. You know him? Sithara asked. Unfortunately, he's a competitor on the mining colony routes. Lost several contracts to me last cycle because his delivery times were terrible. Marcus's jaw tightened. He's not coming to rescue me. He's using this as an opportunity to make you look bad and probably get me killed in the process. The station master's eyes widened. You're not being held hostage? Does it look like I'm being held hostage? Marcus grabbed the communication controls. I'm sitting here discussing business contracts and eating the best meal I've had in months. The only thing holding me here is good food and better company. I'm 70-19. I'm 70-19-3. Sithara placed a massive claw gently on Marcus's shoulder. You should leave, Marcus Chen. Go now, through the cargo bay. Meet this rescue team and tell them you're safe. There's no need for you to be caught in what comes next. What comes next? Marcus looked up at her. We defend ourselves, Corvin said grimly, smoke beginning to pour from his nostrils. We've tried running, we've tried appeasing, we've tried everything, but when beings come at us with weapons, we have no choice. There's always a choice, Marcus said firmly. Not for us, Theris said quietly. If we fight, we're monsters. If we flee, we're cowards. If we do nothing, we're victims. There is no winning path for our family. Marcus felt rage building in his chest. Not at the Dracori, but at the unfairness of it all. At a galaxy that had decided these people were dangerous without ever knowing them. At the fear and prejudice that forced a family to live like wanderers in their own ship. No, he said. Everyone turned to look at him. No, Sithara repeated. No, you're not defending yourselves alone. And no, I'm not running. Marcus walked toward the airlock. I'm going to meet Vex and his little rescue team. And I'm going to end this stupidity right now. Marcus, you don't understand, Theris began. If there's violence, if anyone gets hurt, there won't be violence, Marcus interrupted. Because I'm not going to let it get that far. Corvin stepped in front of the airlock, blocking Marcus's path. This is not your fight, human. Marcus looked up at the massive dragon. Yes, it is. Because you're my friends now. And I don't abandon my friends. The word hung in the air. Friends. Such a simple word, but it carried enormous weight. Kira chirped softly. Friends? Friends, Marcus confirmed, smiling at her. Then he looked back at Corvin. Now please move. I have a reputation to ruin, and a competitor to embarrass. Sithara studied Marcus for a long moment. Then she made a decision. Corvin, let him pass. But we go with him. Grandmother, Corvin started. No, Sithara said firmly. Marcus is right. We've hidden long enough. We've let fear dictate our actions for too long. If this human is brave enough to stand for us, then we will stand beside him. Marcus felt a swell of gratitude. Thank you. But let me do the talking first. Trust me on this. The Dracori family moved to the airlock as one unit. Marcus led the way down the boarding ramp, stepping out into the bay with the entire dragon family behind him. Vex and his rescue team had just entered the bay from the station side. 15 beings of various species, all carrying energy weapons. All looking nervous but determined. Behind them, pressed against the viewing windows above, what looked like half the station's population watched. Vex, a short Carillion with purple scales and too much confidence, raised his weapon when he saw Marcus. "Chen, don't worry, we're here to save you. Get away from those monsters." Marcus didn't move toward Vex. Instead, he walked to stand directly between the rescue team and the Dracori family. He spread his arms wide, making himself into a human shield. "Nobody is saving anybody," Marcus called out, his voice echoing through the bay. "Because nobody needs saving. They've brainwashed you," Vex shouted. "Those creatures are dangerous. The only dangerous thing here is your stupidity," Marcus shot back. "I've been having dinner with the Dracori family. We've been discussing business. They've been nothing but hospitable." Vex's eyes narrowed. "Business? What kind of business?" "The kind that doesn't concern you," Marcus said. "Now put down your weapons and go home before you embarrass yourself further." "We're not leaving without you," another team member said, a tall Corinthian with mandibles clicking nervously. Marcus pulled out his communicator and activated its broadcast function. His voice would now be heard throughout the entire station. "My name is Marcus Chen," he began. "I'm an independent freight hauler. Human. Registered with the Terran Commerce Guild. I came to Nexus Prime for repairs. I accidentally docked in the Eastern Bay due to equipment malfunction. I met the Dracori family. And you know what I found?" He paused, making sure everyone was listening. "I found people. A grandmother who loves her family. Parents who worry about their children. A kid who just wants to make friends. I found traders who've been cheated and mistreated because everyone's too scared to treat them fairly. I found a family that's been forced to wander the galaxy because stations tolerate them but never welcome them." Marcus turned to look at Sithara and her family, then back at Vex. "So no, Vex, I don't need rescuing. But this family needs something much more important. They need what every being in this galaxy deserves. Respect, fair treatment, and a chance to live without being feared for existing." The bay was completely silent. Vex lowered his weapon slightly, confusion crossing his face. "But they're Dracori. Everyone knows they're dangerous. Everyone knows wrong," Marcus said flatly. "I've spent 3 hours with them. Have you ever even talked to a Dracori? Or did you just believe the stories?" Vex had no answer. Marcus pressed his advantage. "Here's what's going to happen. You're going to lower your weapons. You're going to apologize for this ridiculous display. And then you're going to leave. If you really want to help, spread a different story. Tell people what actually happened here today." Behind Marcus, Grandmother Sithara stepped forward. For the first time in decades, she addressed a crowd directly. "I am Sithara of the Dracori." Her voice rolled across the bay like thunder. "I have lived for over 300 cycles. I have seen stars born and die. I have traveled to 1,000 worlds, and in all that time, across all that distance, only one being has ever chosen to see my family as people rather than threats." She gestured to Marcus with one massive claw. This human stood his ground not because he was unafraid, but because he chose understanding over fear. He gave us something precious. He gave us dignity. And now, I ask all of you watching, is this the galaxy we want? One where fear rules? Where families like mine must wander forever? Or can we choose differently? In the viewing windows above, beings looked at each other uncertainly. Some began talking. Some were crying. Some were rethinking everything they thought they knew. Vex stared at Marcus, at Sithara, at his rescue team. Then, slowly, very slowly, he lowered his weapon completely. I didn't know," he said quietly. "Now you do," Marcus replied. "So what are you going to do about it?" The whole station waited for the answer. 3 months after the incident at Nexus Prime, Marcus Chen guided the Steady Prophet into the Eastern Bay once again. This time, things were different. The bay wasn't empty anymore. 3 Dracori vessels occupied berths alongside ships from a dozen other species. Loading crews moved about their work with calm efficiency, handling cargo marked with Dracori symbols with the same care they gave any other freight. The viewing windows above showed ordinary station traffic, people going about their business without fear or panic. Marcus smiled as he brought his ship in for landing. His nav computer, now fully repaired, chirped happily as it confirmed his docking coordinates. His communication system crackled with a familiar voice. "Steady Prophet, this is Nexus Prime Control. Welcome back, Captain Chen. Bay 7 East is cleared for your arrival. The Dracori family has been notified of your approach." "Appreciated, Control," Marcus replied. "Good to be back." As his ship settled onto the platform, Marcus could see the changes everywhere. The eastern section had been renamed Chen's Landing. Though Marcus had protested the honor extensively, signs in multiple languages welcomed Dracori visitors. A cultural center was under construction in the corner of the bay, designed to help different species learn about each other. But the biggest change was the people themselves. As Marcus descended his boarding ramp, he saw cargo handlers working alongside Dracori crew members, laughing at some shared joke. A group of young beings from various species played near the cultural center construction site, including 2 young Dracori who were teaching the others a traditional game. Uncle Marcus. Marcus barely had time to brace himself before Kira bounded across the bay. She'd grown in 3 months, now nearly twice the size of a shuttle. Her scales had deepened to a rich golden color, and she moved with the confidence of a child who was finally learning what it meant to be accepted. "Kira, you've gotten huge." Marcus laughed as she skidded to a stop in front of him, her tail wagging with excitement. "Grandmother says I'm going through a growth phase," Kira said proudly. "And look," she held up a datapad covered in drawings. "I've been practicing my art. The station master commissioned me to design decorations for the new cultural center." Marcus examined the drawings with genuine admiration. They showed different species working together, playing together, living together. "These are beautiful. You've got real talent." She inherited it from her grandfather. Sithara's voice rumbled as she approached. The ancient dragon moved more easily now, with less of the wary tension Marcus had seen during their first meeting. He was an artist before the wandering years began. Marcus bowed respectfully. "Grandmother Sithara, it's good to see you." "And you, Marcus Chen." Sithara's eyes gleamed with warmth. "I trust your route was profitable?" "Very much so." Marcus pulled out his datapad, displaying delivery confirmations. All 30 containers of medical crystals delivered safely to the mining colonies. 0 damage. Perfect temperature maintenance throughout transport. Your buyers were extremely satisfied. Corvan emerged from the Dracori vessel, followed by Theris and the rest of the family. "No handling issues?" Corvan asked, though his tone was more curious than suspicious now. "None at all," Marcus confirmed. "In fact, 2 of the colony managers asked if I could arrange direct meetings with your family. They want to discuss expanded trade agreements." Theris made a soft sound of surprise. "Direct meetings? They actually want to meet us?" "They do," Marcus said. "Turns out when your goods arrive in perfect condition and on schedule, people start to reconsider their prejudices. Also helps that I've been telling everyone I meet about the best fruit in the galaxy and where to get it." Kira giggled. "He means grandmother's starberries." "Those exact ones," Marcus agreed. "Half the station managers I've visited now want to try them." Sithara looked out across the bay. At the bustling activity. At the mixing of species that would have been impossible 3 months ago. "This is your doing, Marcus Chen. You changed everything." "No," Marcus said firmly. "I just started a conversation. You're the ones who changed things by being willing to try again. By giving people a chance to know you." A chime sounded from the station's communication system. The station master's face appeared on the large display screens throughout the bay. "Attention all personnel. This is a reminder that tomorrow evening, we'll be hosting the first annual Nexus Prime Cultural Exchange celebration. All species are invited to share their traditions, food, art, and stories. The Dracori family has graciously agreed to provide the opening ceremony. Marcus raised an eyebrow at Sithara. Opening ceremony? Sithara looked almost embarrassed, which was quite an expression on a 300-year-old dragon. They asked if we would perform a traditional fire dance. I thought it might help show others that our flames are not just for destruction, but also for beauty. That sounds incredible, Marcus said sincerely. Will you attend? Kira asked hopefully. Please say yes. Marcus pretended to consider it. Well, I don't know. I've got cargo schedules, maintenance checks, paperwork. Kira's face fell. Marcus grinned. Of course I'll be there. I wouldn't miss it for anything. Kira chirped with joy and did a little spinning dance right there in the bay. As the afternoon wore on, Marcus found himself sharing a meal with the Dracori family once again. This time in the bay's new communal dining area. Other beings joined them, drawn by curiosity and the delicious smells. Conversation started awkwardly but soon flowed naturally. A Vendorian trader asked Korvan about proper crystal storage. A Corinthian child shyly asked Kira to explain her drawings. Theris shared recipes with a group of interested cooks from various species. Vex appeared halfway through the meal, looking uncomfortable. He approached Marcus's table with obvious reluctance. Chen, Vex said stiffly. I wanted to. That is, I need to. Apologize? Marcus suggested. Vex's purple scales darkened with shame. Yes, I was wrong. About everything. I let fear and competition cloud my judgment. I nearly caused a tragedy because I couldn't see past my own prejudices. Sithara studied Vex calmly. And what do you see now? People, Vex said quietly. I see people I never took the time to know, and I'm sorry. Sithara nodded slowly. Apology accepted. Would you care to join us? We have plenty of food. Vex looked shocked. You'd welcome me? After what I did? Everyone deserves a second chance, Sithara said. Marcus taught us that, or perhaps reminded us of what we'd forgotten. Vex sat down, still looking uncomfortable but grateful. By the end of the meal, he was engaged in a spirited discussion with Korvan about shipping routes. Later that evening, Marcus stood alone on his ship's boarding ramp, looking out at the transformed bay. Sithara joined him, settling her massive form nearby. You're leaving tomorrow? She asked. Just for 2 weeks, Marcus said. I've got deliveries to make. But I'll be back for the celebration. And I've already booked my next cargo run with your family. Marcus Chen, Sithara said thoughtfully. Do you know what you've given us? A shipping contract? Marcus joked. A home, Sithara corrected gently. Not a place, but something more important. You've given us the possibility of belonging, of being welcomed rather than tolerated, of our children growing up without fear. Marcus felt emotion tighten his throat. You deserved that all along, I just helped others see it. You did more than that, Sithara said. You showed an entire station that courage isn't about being fearless. It's about choosing connection, despite fear. You stood your ground when everyone else stepped back, and in doing so, you created space for understanding to grow. She reached into a pouch at her side and withdrew something small, a single scale, deep red with golden edges, gleaming in the bay lights. This is from my first shedding, over 300 cycles ago, Sithara said. In Dracori tradition, we give these only to family. To those who stand with us through fire. She placed the scale gently in Marcus's palm. You are family now, Marcus Chen. Not by blood, but by choice. By courage. By the simple act of seeing us as people when no one else would. Marcus closed his fingers around the scale, feeling its warmth. Thank you, grandmother, for everything. Above them, stars wheeled in their ancient patterns. Ships came and went. Different species worked side by side, and in one bay of one station, a family of dragons and a human freight hauler had changed the galaxy in a small but important way. They had proven that understanding could triumph over fear. That one person's choice to stand rather than step back could ripple outward. That sometimes, the most extraordinary thing you could do was simply treat others with dignity. As Kira called out good night from the Dracori ship, as workers finished their shifts and headed home, as Nexus Prime settled into its evening rhythms, Marcus smiled. He'd come here 3 months ago looking for ship repairs. Instead, he'd found something far more valuable. He'd found proof that courage, kindness, and a willingness to see beyond fear could change everything. And tomorrow, the galaxy would be a little bit brighter because of it.